Hello everyone, Ladislas Maurice from thewanderinginvestor.com. So today I'm in beautiful Belgrade in Serbia, and I'm going to be talking about real estate here. So I came here for about 2 weeks. I wanted to look into real estate. So why? From a macro point of view, I find Serbia to be a rather unique proposition in Europe. So the first thing to know about Serbia is it's really between east and west. It's not completely aligned with the US and Europe. It's also not completely aligned with China and with Russia, but it does business with all of them. It's even signed a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. So with Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, it's got almost a free trade agreement with the European Union, with Turkey. There's a lot of foreign direct investment coming into Serbia for a lot of services, but mostly manufacturing. So Serbia is quite good when it comes to exports. It's well diversified and it's high value add exports. So the main issue with investing in Serbia is the high current account deficit, which has been persistent throughout the years. On the other hand, they've been covering it thanks to all these investment friendly policies, which have resulted in a lot of FDI. From that point of view, Serbia is doing well, and it's got an incentive to continue to be welcoming to foreign investors. One of the main issues is the population that's been trending down, and quite significantly so in the whole country. But Belgrade, the capital city, is an outlier. The population is stable, even going up a bit. So what's important to know about Belgrade is that historically it's always been the capital of the Balkans during Yugoslavia and after, and even now. Whenever people look to invest in the Balkans, the #1 destination is invariably Serbia. It's also attractive from a personal income tax point of view, 15% flat essentially, and from a corporate income tax point of view, also 15%. So in this regard, it's very similar to other countries around like Macedonia, Bulgaria, Montenegro, Hungary, a little bit higher from a tax point of view, but it's still very attractive. So this behind is a good example of foreign direct investment. It's the Belgrade Waterfront. So this used to be essentially nothing, just old factories, and it was falling apart. The government of Serbia cut a deal with a large Emirati developer, Eagle Hills. Government of Serbia 1/3, Emirati developer 2/3. So they're just building all of these high rises. They redid a whole promenade here. Down there is the largest mall in the Balkans, just really high-end, very nice. This huge building is going to be there's going to be a St. Regis hotel in there, so they'll be selling apartments for at least 7,000 to 8,000 euros a square meter. There's a W hotel that's planned as well, and it's all just high-end. I'm generally very skeptical of such luxury developments, either the developers that make the money or the first investors. So people who had faith in the project and were the first to put money down, these people typically see good ROI. But generally, if you come when it's already nice or getting there, there's not that much in for you in terms of capital gains. In many cases, I've seen this a few times, you buy something new and then when you try to sell it, prices have actually gone down. So there's a gap between secondary market and primary market that's actually negative. This here is a little different in the sense that it's a massive luxury development. So they're going to have 2 or 3 private schools. A lot of these buildings have gyms and swimming pools and a concierge at the entrance, but it's essentially really close to the core of Belgrade. The old city is by public transport 10 minutes. If you walk, just 20 minutes. As you can see, it's on the river, on the main river here. So it's prime. So it's not just a luxury development somewhere 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from downtown. It's actually in the heart of Belgrade. Lower end units are a bit over 3,000 euros a square meter, goes up to 7, 8 there. If you go for one of the lower end units, you can expect rental income of 12 euros a square meter. Common charges are a bit over €1 per square meter per month. You can expect to get approximately 3.5%, maybe 4% if you stretch it, maybe 4% gross rental income. So is it expensive? Yes, and it's actually a feature of the Belgrade real estate market. For Serbia as a whole, it's the country in Europe where the price of real estate is the most disproportionate to local incomes. So the price to income ratio is the most out of whack in Europe. The reality is that many people here just earn 500 to 700 euros. So expecting to pay prices like this makes absolutely no sense. So everyone is going around like headless chickens in Belgrade saying that it's a bubble, it's a bubble. But if you take a step back and you look at the wider reality of the market, when you look at such projects, who's buying? Local money. To be fair, there's probably a lot of corruption money that's buying in these developments. Then a huge segment of the population that's then a huge source of money into the local real estate market is Serbs from overseas, so diaspora Serbs. They live in Canada, in the US, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Their assets back in the West are doing very well and they want to buy something in the homeland. A segment that's increasing, that's something that I see as well in Ukraine and in other countries, is local IT workers. They live here, they work online, and they're earning not Western salaries, but almost, so they can actually afford to buy much more expensive real estate than local people. So especially when you go into prime areas, you have all of these people getting together and outbidding each other for prime property. Is it a bubble? Not necessarily, because there's a huge segment of the market that's willing to pay these prices and that it can actually afford such prices. But it also means that prices are unlikely to go up much further. Again, you never know. I potentially would have been saying the same thing 2 years ago, but there's going to be a certain cap to how far prices can go up here. So I wouldn't say it's a bubble in the sense that it's going to crash and burn, but it might have a small correction at some point. But overall, the feeling I'm getting from this market is that it rather ran ahead of itself, and that Serbia's growth is already priced into the price of real estate. So as Serbia grows, which it's been doing well with a government that's been very good at managing its finances and again attracting foreign money, then we should see local wages gradually catch up and hopefully the price to income ratio become a bit more acceptable for the local population. When you come here to Belgrade, people will be pitching to you real estate in a few areas. So one is the Belgrade Waterfront. Personally, I wouldn't buy here. It's nice, but I would prefer to buy in the Old Town or in Vračar, in one of these old historical buildings, because I'm pretty sure that in 30 years time, these historical buildings are still gonna look good. This here in 30 years time, I don't know. I don't know how good Emiratis are at building for Balkan weather, but from a living point of view, I'm sure it's fantastic. And then there's New Belgrade. So New Belgrade is on the other side of the riverbank, so the side here where I'm standing. Locals like to buy here. If I were to make a long-term investment here in Belgrade, I would tend to avoid New Belgrade because there's a lot of open space. So the dynamics are very different on this side of the city. Because of all the empty space, what happens is new buildings get built. Everyone wants to live in the new neighborhood. 10 years later, that neighborhood starts to look a little less modern, and then people gradually want to live in the newer, better place. So it's a bit like Dubai. It's constantly shifting. So as a long-term investor, it's not the sort of market you want to be involved in. You want to just buy a place, hold it, not think too much about location. So I would personally go for the historical buildings in the core center. When you're looking at prices in the core center, don't be surprised to see apartments going for between 2,500 to 3,000 euros a square meter. It's pretty similar to prices in downtown Budapest. It's more expensive than Bucharest in Romania, than Sofia in Bulgaria. So overall, comparatively, I do find that Belgrade is overpriced, and then the yields are quite low. So we're gonna go now with Stefan, a real estate agent I met here who's really good, who's really great. He's going to show us an apartment in Vračar, in a historical building, very nice apartment, nice renovation, so that you can get a feel for what 2,600 euros a square meter gets you currently in Belgrade for larger units. And just as a little side note before we go see it, bear in mind that what you see there for 2,600 euros, that would be the price for a smaller unit unrenovated. But because it's large, it's 2,600 per square meter with a nice renovation. And by the way, renovation costs are pretty low in Serbia, which is interesting. you can get a full renovation for 350, 400 euros a square meter here in Belgrade. And also it's one of the few countries where non-resident mortgages are available. So even if you don't have any assets here in Serbia or any income in Serbia, it is possible to obtain a non-resident mortgage. Unfortunately, the rates are quite high. Expect to have to pay between 6 and 7% interest, 20% down payment. So when you're making gross yields of 3.5%, 4%, it makes absolutely no sense to go for such financing. Cool. So let's go and check out that apartment. All right, so here we are in Vračar. It's one of the nicer neighborhoods, actually one of the best neighborhoods in central Belgrade. So you can see some historical buildings. We're gonna go check out an apartment right here in this building on the first floor. The balcony right here, it's from 1938. It's called a saloon apartment. Cute. All right, entrance. So parking is on the street here, right?
There is a public garage near the building. I'll show you later, so you can rent per month.
Okay. All right, so the apartment is 300,000 euros for 115 square meters. It's already fully renovated. So that is about, yeah, nice renovation. So that's about 2,600 euros per square meter. So much cheaper than the Belgrade Waterfront, clearly. Gosh, these doors are so thick, it's crazy. Much cheaper than the Belgrade Waterfront. Probably not as modern, and you don't have the whole facilities, etc. But the location is more where, you know, the people live, type of thing. So essentially a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom apartment. Pretty quiet. Huh, nice balcony, cool, let's go check it out. All right, so a mix of buildings and history. It's cute. Great, so I'm here with Stefan. How are you, Stefan?
Good, how are you?
Good, cool. So Stefan is taking me around to see properties here in Belgrade, and we are having a look at this property. So like I said a bit earlier, 300,000 euros for 115 square meters, so 2,600 euros per square meter. So what rental income could an investor expect?
Investor can expect around 1,000 euro for renting this apartment.
And we were having a discussion earlier. You were saying you could either rent it as an apartment for a family or also as an office. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes, this kind of saloon apartments built between two world wars, is great for all offices and that kind of offices. It's really common here in Belgrade to you run business from apartment like this. So the good thing, if you rent this as an office, you don't have to equip this with the furniture or, you know, kitchen equipment and stuff like that, and you can take the same money like you rent it as apartment. Sometimes a little more for office.
Here in Serbia, when you come and buy an apartment on the secondary market, you have to pay 2% to the agent that's showing you around.
Yes.
and then the agent that is selling the apartment gets 2% from the seller. So essentially the commission is split.
Yes.
So 300,000 euros, you need to add the 2% for Stefan's fee, who can then actually go and find specific properties for you as well. He doesn't just sell what's in his portfolio. And also there's the 2.5% kind of stamp duty tax that you need to pay when you buy.
Yes.
But we're having a discussion earlier. You're saying that typically when people come and buy real estate on the secondary market, people have the expectation that they can negotiate approximately 5%. Of course, it's not a rule, but it's...
That's right. On the secondary market, the price that it's the start price, usually we can load that in a negotiation about 5%.
Okay. So essentially the 5% kind of covers the stamp duty tax, the notary fees, potentially the legal fees and the agency fees. So really all in 300K for such an apartment. What are the monthly common charges for this apartment?
For this apartment, okay. For utilities, for bills, it's about 130 euro. That includes central heating system and everything beside electricity bill.
And typically in Serbia, tenants pay the common charges on top of the rent.
Yes.
What about the property tax?
Property tax for this apartment, it's about 170 euro per year.
Amazing. So compare this to the US, compare this to Western Europe. We're talking of a 300,000 euro apartment in essentially one of the best neighborhoods in Belgrade, and the yearly property tax is 170 euros.
It depends from two things. When it's a building is older like this one is from 1938, so the tax is lower. For brand new building, it will be higher. Also, if you are living here with the family, you have some discounts of the members who lived there.
If you buy such an apartment for residency in Serbia, then it means that you would probably not pay much at all, even less in property taxes, because you would register this as your living space. So overall, 1,000 times 12 divided by 300, gross yield of 4%. It's fairly representative of what one can expect in Belgrade. We saw a bit earlier the Belgrade Waterfront. There it's actually even lower. It's more like 3.5%. So definitely older buildings are a better investment from a yield point of view. Now we're having this discussion with Stefan, and that's why I really like Stefan, because when I went into his office, I told him, okay, what's a good investment, etc. And then he said, well, are you looking to make money? And I was like, yeah, I'm looking to make money. And then he's like, well, then nothing. Because the prices essentially are, as I was mentioning earlier, quite high in Belgrade. But it's probably not a bad place to just have money parked on the side instead of having it in the bank. Just manage your expectations in terms of future growth. The way I look at Belgrade is more of a lifestyle investment, if I can put it this way, because such an apartment, you would pay similar prices for downtown Budapest. When I look at the GDP per capita of Serbia versus the GDP per capita of Hungary, essentially it's half, and Hungary is in the European Union, and it's a city that's a lot more connected. It's a bigger city as well. There's a lot more economic activity there, and objectively, it's a prettier city from a tourism value point of view. But what Serbia has to offer is this whole space of being between East and West and trade deals with pretty much everyone, and this European vibe, but without being in the European Union. So definitely when you're in Serbia, you feel more freedom. And for non-EU people, it's often hard to just relocate to the European Union. Here in Serbia, it's actually quite easy. You just need to buy real estate, actually spend a few months every year in Serbia, because they do count the amount of days that you stay here. For North Americans, for example, that want to live in Europe, but that have issues dealing with the whole EU bureaucracy to get to live in Europe, Belgrade is a fantastic option. You live essentially in the heart of Europe. You're an hour and a half away from Istanbul, an hour away from Vienna, flying. Beautiful city. It's a lot of fun, I have to say. It's the bars, the nightclubs, etc. A lot of fun. There's a lot of cycling along all the rivers. There's some skiing in the south of the country. People are a lot friendlier than in most European countries. People speak English, it's widely spoken, it's very easy to get around. And taxes objectively are quite low, so flat 15% on worldwide income. So it's a great residency play. So would I come to Belgrade to just buy real estate hoping for strong capital appreciation and high yields? No. If I were to do this, it would be for residency. I think this is really the play here. Residency and putting your money away from Western structures. To get back to what I was saying, that's what I liked about Stefan is all the other agents I spoke to, they're like, yeah, we're going to find you a great investment, et cetera, et cetera. And he was very straightforward with what the situation is. And then I found out that he actually has a legal background. So he used to be an associate at a large law firm here in Serbia. So he's not your typical real estate agent. No nonsense. I really like that about him. So if you are looking for a real estate agent here in Belgrade, looking to buy or even to rent, feel free to get in touch with Stefan. His email is right below, and there's a link with a bit more information on his services. Okay, great. Stefan, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers.